Hello everyone and welcome back to the dig site. Today I'm going to be covering the accuracy of Prehistoric Park and how it sort of fits out with these animals that it represents in the TV series. Now, for those of you who don't know, Prehistoric Park was a mini-series in the early 2000s. I believe it was about 2007 when it came out. And it basically features around this idea of time travel to rescue extinct species and bring them back to the present day. And as a kid, it was probably the most inspirational thing that was possibly prehistory related to me. It was literally the one and only reason that I got interested in paleontology at all and zoology. As the host of the show, Nigel Marvin is a zoologist. So right off the bat, we're going to be kicking off with Tyrannosaurus Rex, the series' sort of defining creature. How do they represent it in the series? Now, interestingly enough, Prehistoric Park takes a bit of a different approach to the Tyrannosaurus than we see in Jurassic Park. Because in Jurassic Park, the T-Rex is this huge, really bulking, very muscular, very large animal with a really very signature roar. Prehistoric Park, on the other hand, represents the Tyrannosaurus Rex as a very a more capable hunter than the Jurassic Park one, but much slimmer and much thinner. I would say that the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus physically is more realistic than the Prehistoric Park Tyrannosaurus Rex, simply because the one in Prehistoric Park is really more like a malnourished Tyrannosaurus. If anything, it looks more like an Albertosaurine, which are very sort of slim, very thinly built Tyrannosaurids, really designed for pursuit hunting, not really ambush hunting that Tyrannosaurus was designed for. That light is like right in my eyes down there. I'm going to maybe move it a little bit. So yeah, I would say, should I rank them? Should I be ranking these? I might actually rank them. Hang on, I'm going to get a piece of paper. This is really off the cuff and not planned at all. I need something to write on it with a little book. So I've got this really, really dodgy rank. Oh, you probably can't see it because of the light. But it's this really dodgy ranking system. Behavior, appearance, and environment of each of the animals. So we've got Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh, nearly dropped my book. Behavior. This is out of 5. So in the series, it behaves. Actually, they got the behavior pretty accurate. I want to be out of frame. I'm going to move back here a little bit. Maybe even lower the chair. Hold up. That's not it. I have to bend my knees because I'm so tall. The floor is like here. Anyway, that's completely meaningless. Behavior. I would say Prehistoric Park gets the behavior pretty good. I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5, I would say. And you know what? I'm going to be adding sound for the vocalizations as well. Appearance. Honestly, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. I don't think Prehistoric Park gave the Tyrannosaurus the iconic appearance that it had in real life any justice. It was just so different to what they would have looked like in real life. It didn't have any feathers, which, understandably, of course, we don't know if Tyrannosaurus Rex had feathers or not, although it is heavily implied that it could have. It was very thin in the series, and it just didn't really look like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It looked more like an Albertosaurine, a very large Albertosaurine. Environment. Now, in the series, they claim that it lives in ashy plains. I highly doubt that it did in real life, simply because Tyrannosaurus Rex was likely an ambush predator, and it would have needed somewhere to actually ambush from. If you're in ashy plains, you've really got nowhere to conceal yourself. I believe it probably lived in or around forests or very rough terrain. Although, of course, that would also lead to many dangers, because if Tyrannosaurus Rex falls over, it's going to die. I would say that in the environment section of the series, it's probably going to get like a 3 out of 5. And the sound that it makes. In real life, Tyrannosaurus Rex did not roar. It made a very warbly, very grumbly sort of sound. In my opinion, it's way cooler than any roaring sounds from movies or anything. It's so scary when you hear what it actually sounded like in real life. So I'm going to give the sound factor of Prehistoric Park, a bit of a light flare there. I'm going to give the sound factor It roars in the series, but it's not like the Jurassic Park roar. It's more raspy. I'll give it like a 3. No, I'll give it a 2 out of 5. Okay. Alright. So, out of 20 points, Tyrannosaurus from Prehistoric Park gets, what's that, 3, 4, that's 5. It gets 11 points out of 20. So a little over 50%. Now we move on to Smilodon. Now in the series, they claim that it's Smilodon populator, which is the largest of the 3 Smilodon species. What is that? Yes, populator is the biggest of the 3 Smilodon species. You've got Fatalis, Gracilis, and populator. And I've got my Fatalis skull up there. Which actually, you know what? I'm going to go get it because I want to show something to you guys. Oops. Okay. In the series, on the first episode that Nigel Marven explores and goes and visits the Smilodon populator in its environment, he introduces the skull of Populator. Now, this is not a Populator skull, this is a Fatalis skull, but I remember seeing Nigel Marven with the Populator skull and just falling in love with it. I just thought, as a kid, I thought, one day I'm going to have a Smilodon skull, and I have one. And that's seriously the sole reason that I have a Smilodon skull. Is that even on properly? I don't know. But yeah, that's my Smilodon Fatalis skull. It's awesome. It's Bone Clones, go check them out. Really, really cool website. A bit expensive, but it's, you know, it's worth it. They're really, really good. Okay, so the behavior of Smilodon in the series. In this series, it's indicated that Smilodon is a very sort of solo predator, that it doesn't behave in or hunt in large groups. They show a female by herself tending to a young, and she becomes very aggressive towards Saba. I can't remember Saba's last name, but she's a big cat zoologist. She's an expert on big cats in South Africa, and yeah, she was a huge inspiration to me as a kid. I thought she was really cool. So yeah, she confronts Saba, kind of attacks her. They show the females tend to have more power over the males in mating. Whether or not that's true, we really have no idea. If I'm going to be honest, I would say behavior-wise, ecology-wise, the Smilodon in Prehistoric Park is probably like a 3 out of 5, just because there is evidence in the fossil record that Smilodon was actually a group predator. I don't want to say like a pride or a pack hunter, because you know I don't want to compare it to lions or to canids. But yeah, there is evidence that it was a group hunter because it shows that Smilodon that had cracked canine teeth, which would lead to their death in any other circumstance because they need those to hunt and to eat, or broken canine teeth, they lived until an old age, and till the wounds healed rather substantially. So it indicates that somehow they were still eating, that they were still being active, even with broken leg bones and broken those bones that you really need to keep moving. They were still functional, and they died of different circumstances not related to that specific injury. So it indicates to a lot of paleontologists that these animals were actually being cared for by other members of their group, that they were bringing food to them and such things. So that's what that indicates to me as well. I believe that that's true. So yeah, I'm going to give the Smilodon in the series a 3 out of 5 for behavior. Appearance, they got it pretty good. They did. Of course, we don't really know about the external features of Smilodon aside from the skeletal remains, because there really isn't a lot of evidence about its fur, about its its skin and body mass and size. What we can tell from the fossil record is that it was a very large, bulky animal, as they indicate in the series. It had very big, muscular forelimbs. It's got a big, boxy head. And that's really what they show in the series. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Okay, 4 out of 5 for appearance. Much better than Tyrannosaurus. Environment. Pretty much perfect. I think they got it spot on. The thing is that the environment that it lived in hasn't really changed all that much. I mean, it wasn't very long ago that it was alive. So yeah, I'm going to say that's a 5 out of 5. I think they got that pretty much perfect. The long grass, the tall grass that these animals hunted and pursued it in. That's not a word. Pursued their prey in. Yeah, spot on. The sound. Again, it's very hard to tell. What I like about it is that they didn't use roaring. The Smilodon in the show doesn't roar. It more or less kind of it makes a very similar sound to a jaguar or a leopard. It's very sort of this howling, reverbing a sound that sort of echoes throughout its vocal cords, its larynx. And so yeah, I'm gonna give it like a 3 out of 5 because honestly, it's very hard to tell. Not a lot of research has gone into the sounds that Smilodon would have made, so it's a bit difficult to say. So I'll just give it like a 50-50. That's not 50-50, but you know what I mean. So overall, Smilodon does really well. It got 15 out of 20. Much better than the Tyrannosaurus, which only got 11 out of 20. So yeah, Prehistoric Park, congratulations, you got Smilodon pretty spot on. Moving on, we now have the woolly mammoth, or Mammothus. Behavior in this series. In this series, it's hard to gauge the animal's behavior because by the time that Nigel finds a wild woolly mammoth, most of them have already gone extinct. So I'm going to say that, you know, although they do show that when Martha is the name of the mammoth, when Martha is introduced to the herd of elephants at Prehistoric Park, she's very antisocial. She doesn't like being around them because they're not her herd and they don't treat her very well. I would say that that's pretty accurate. Mammoths and elephants were probably very, very similar ecologically. I don't think that they really would have been too different, aside from obviously their physical appearance. But yeah, behavior-wise, they were probably very similar, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 for that one. Appearance-wise for the mammoth, it's pretty much spot on. For a female mammoth, at least. You know, the tusks aren't ridiculously big or, you know, with weird branches on them like the ones in Ark. The nice substitute between fur and body mass and size. So yeah, that's pretty much spot on. I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5 as well. Simply because, again, we don't know everything about the appearance of these animals. That's why I won't be giving any 5 out of 5s for the appearance of them, because we can't tell 100% for sure what color they were, or, you know, how much fur they had, or, you know, whether they had feathers or not. Environment. Again, this is like a 5 out of 5, because, again, the environment hasn't changed very much since that time. In fact, the pyramids, this is a fun little fact for you, the pyramids are like 2,000 years older than the extinction of the mammoths. So while the pyramids were being built, there were still mammoths alive up in Siberia and the northern regions of the world. Isn't that so weird? And the sound that it makes, again, it sounds a lot like an elephant. It's slightly altered, but it is pretty accurate. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, because it's probably what it sounded like. So, the mammoth has done really, really well. 17 out of 20. The best so far. Congratulations. Really, really good. Martha, you did excellently. Next up, we've got Troodon, or Stenonychosaurus, as it has been sort of renamed to. Although, did Troodon actually lose its name, like the genre? Or was a species of Troodon just reassigned to Stenonychosaurus? Like a new species split off from Troodon? Because I know they reanalyzed a tooth and named it Stenonychosaurus that was previously named Troodon, and therefore it is no longer Troodon. Anyway, I'll have to do some research about it and write it in the comments, and you can go down and check that out. But behavior in the show of Troodon, honestly, I think this one's hard, because in the show, the Troodon isn't really aggressive towards people. It just tries to steal their food, which is probably what a Troodon would do in real life. I don't think that a lone Troodon, although Nigel does get pursued by a pack of Troodon through the forest. So when they're in a pack, they will attack a human, but when they're, you know, by themselves, they won't. I'd say that's pretty accurate. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. And they're also quite intelligent in the show, which is what they were like in real life. They're probably the most intelligent of the non-avian dinosaurs. Appearance-wise, they don't have any feathers. And I'm pretty certain the Troodon had feathers, so I'm going to give it seriously a 2 out of 5. Just because no feathers, it's really scaly, it's not right. It's 2 out of 5, the feathers are a huge deal. No feathers, bad Troodon, bad Prehistoric Park. Environment, 4 out of 5. The forest stuff is probably pretty accurate, showing that it was nocturnal and living in a darker environment, very accurate. But again, we can't know for sure what the environment was like, so 4 out of 5. And the sound that it makes. Again, we can't be too certain about sounds that dinosaurs in particular made because dinosaurs, like birds, probably had syrinxes, especially the theropods. The syrinx is like the opposite to a larynx. Oh, sorry, not the opposite to a larynx, but it's the counterpart to a larynx for birds and aves. And the syrinx is basically this tissue of an organ, and unfortunately, it doesn't fossilize, so we can't be certain what sounds or how these animals made their sounds. Um, but the way that it's depicted in the show is that it makes very bird-like noises, very chirps and warbles and things like that. It coos. I just flicked my pencil. Did you see that? Do you hate it when, like, if you're in school and you accidentally throw your pencil? How awkward is that? What was I talking about? Troodon? Oh yeah, okay. Troodon, coos. Yeah, it's. I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 5 because personally I think that's probably what it would have sounded like, but again, we can't be sure. Next up, we have got Deinosuchus, the giant crocodile from North America. Behavior-wise, I always found this very odd about Deinosuchus, is the fact that it attacks Nigel when he's in his raft. I really don't think that a Deinosuchus would do that. It's too big. I doubt it would really waste all that energy going for a very small prey item. And when Nigel and his crew use sticks to lure it into a trap, right? And it can't get out. I'm pretty sure a Deinosuchus could break out of that stuff. But aside from that, they show it killing Parasaurolophus on the beach. And it also, it fights the Albertosaurus though. Really steps up against them. I don't know if it would do that. Crocodiles in real life, saltwater crocodiles in particular, don't tend to really fight with each other. I guess they do. They don't tend to fight with each other over land. On land, sorry. They tend to fight in the water. Saltwater crocodiles fight a lot, by the way, but they only really fight in the water. Because on land, it takes a lot more energy to move their bodies. Obviously, in water, it's a lot less stressful to get muscle movement of such a huge animal because the gravity has less of an effect on them. Whereas on land, they got to drag their big bodies around, especially if they're big males, like the Deinosuchus in the show were. They also seem to be behaving in groups. There are like 3 or 4 of them in the show. That's probably pretty accurate, I'd say so. Yeah. I'm going to give the behavior about a 3 out of 5. There's a couple of problems and inconsistencies there, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Appearance. Deinosuchus in real life looked a lot like an alligator. It had a very sort of rounded snout, and its head broadened as it went backwards. Crocodiles have very sort of pointed snouts, very different to alligators. It's one way you can sort of tell the difference between them. Alligators also have their eyes on the side of their head, whereas crocodiles have them much more on top. They got the size right. The size of it is correct. I'm going to say that's probably pretty accurate. We'll give it a 3 out of 5. Just because in the show, the coloration, we have no idea what color it was. So we can't, that's thrown out the window. And in the show, it looks like some weird amalgamation of an alligator's head and a crocodile's body. And I really don't think it would have been like that. I think it would have been one or the other. It probably would have looked more like an alligator, to be honest. That sort of shape and body shape seems to have worked in that area for a long time. Environment, beaches and rivers. The waterways in the show aren't really that big. But of course, it's not impossible for a Deinosuchus to get there. For it to be in the ocean, are we certain if it was a saltwater or a freshwater animal? Or it could be both, like saltwater crocodiles are. Saltwater crocodiles can live in both salt and freshwater, whereas freshwater crocodiles in Australia can only really live in freshwater. So I'm just wondering about Deinosuchus there. So that's a point gone, because we don't know about that. But yeah, the environment, the beaches and stuff, it's pretty accurate, I would say. I would imagine the rivers and waterways that it lived in would be a lot bigger, though. I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 5, because I'm just not sure. Sound. It hisses like crocodiles, so I guess that's accurate. It doesn't really make a whole lot of noise other than that, so I'm just going to give it a 4 out of 5. Okay. 9, 12. Alright, Deinosuchus did pretty good, got 13 out of 20. It's the second worst so far, next to the Tyrannosaurus, above the Tyrannosaurus and below the Smilodon, Mammoth, and Troodon. Not in any particular order, because I stuffed that order up, but whatever. Okay. I'm going to do one more, just because I don't want to go through all the creatures, it would take way too long. I'll do one more creature. We're going to focus on the Triceratops. No, actually, we've done too many dinosaurs. I want to do Arthropleura. Okay, Arthropleura. Behavior. In real life, Arthropleura was probably an herbivore. So, although it doesn't eat meat in the show, it just threatens Nigel. So I guess in that sense, it could still be accurate. I don't think Arthropleura in real life would threaten other organisms. It was probably a very passive, very docile animal. In Ark Survival Evolved, they really stuffed that up. It's a carnivore. Although I guess, it's not really the same species, it's a different species, so who knows, it could be different. They got the size pretty accurate in the show. It's probably a little bit too big, to be honest. I've seen life-size Arthropleura, and it's not as massive and colossal as they indicate it to be in the series. So I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 5. Although, no, sorry, that's appearance, isn't it? Behavior, 4 out of 5. Appearance, so we've already lost a point for that thing I was talking about before. Aside from that, it's pretty good. I'm going to give it like a 4 out of 5. And it's lost points for some of the size characteristics, but honestly, apart from that, it's pretty accurate. Actually, no, 3 out of 5, because we don't know what color it was, therefore it could never potentially be 100% accurate. Environment. The environment of Arthropleura is spot on in the show, the Carboniferous period, lots of trees, very tree. Lots of trees, lots of oxygen, lovely, good for insects. Lots of oxygen means big insects. You just learned something, good job. Environment gets a 4 out of 5 because it's good. Sound. It doesn't really make a sound in the show. I think there's a point where it goes chit 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 chit, like little chippy noises. I'll give it like a 4 out of 5. Whoops. Alright, let's tally them up and check them out. It's been tallied up. Let's go over it. Tyrannosaurus, accuracy, 11 out of 20. Not too good, T-Rex, Matilda and Terrence. Don't know what you're doing. Honestly, I could probably take another point off in hindsight for its behavior, because they indicate in the show that the females of the species were more dominant over the males, and recent studies suggest that that's probably not true. But you know what? I'm going to leave it just because it's a theory. We don't know. So I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. They also indicate that males are smaller than females, which has since been debunked. But there's no real there's no real point that I could take off, so I'm just going to leave that. It's just like an inaccuracy in the actual show, not with the animal. Smilodon gets 15 out of 20, so a few points better than the T-Rex, but still, missing us some important stuff. The Mammoth gets 17 out of 20, which is really good. They did really well with the Mammoth. Excellent. Martha, you get full points for that one. Troodon gets 13 out of 20. Not too great, but still better than the T-Rex. So yeah, good one. Stop stealing people's meat, you little shit. Deinosuchus, 13 out of 20, like Troodon. They're on par with each other. Yeah, Deinosuchus did okay in the show. Again, probably not too accurate. Arthropleura, 17 out of 20. I just stabbed myself trying to clap. Holy shit. That's lead poisoning right there. Congratulations, good job. I don't know what to do now. Because Arthropleura and the Mammoth are tied. They win. Yeah, Prehistoric Park. Check it out. If you want to subscribe to this channel, do it. If you don't, move on. Leave a like if you want. and leave a comment. That's important. I want to hear what you have to say. Comment. Say something. Give me something to argue about. I love arguing with people. It's fun. And yeah, cheers. I'll see you later.